Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Yo, matey, you just stabbed me with your podcast.
Yo!
Welcome, everyone.
Good voice. I like the voice.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. They're usually your hosts, but today, producer Ben, that's me.
Hey!
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to be stepping in as sort of a guest host.
Third time's the charm.
It's happened before. It will happen again.
It's another Ben's choice. Ben's choice.
Now, let's see if I can get through this setup of what the show is. So, Blank Check, right?
Yeah.
Blank Check is a podcast where we look at directors' filmographies.
Can I just
right?
point out? I mean, you're nailing it so far because you got correct that it's called Blank Check and that it's a podcast.
Let him talk.
Keep going.
Great. Okay, so in this podcast, we take the director's filmographies and we kind of look at it, right? We take it under a microscope, we put it on a slide, and we're like, wait a second, okay, this is where they started, they were cultured here, this is where they had their big break, and then this is where Hollywood is like, you could do whatever you want. But then the thing is, a lot of times those checks bounce, and sometimes they do good.
Clear?
Yeah.
Deposit.
I don't know, we have to figure out, because I like...
Griffin has his spiel.
Yeah, he's
But you
got
know
that-
what? This is Ben's choice.
This is Ben's
That's
choice.
right. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, here is what we're going to be talking about today. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's a fun little romper. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and let's put out, when we first had the idea to do a Ben's choice, we asked him, what's your favorite movie? And this was the first answer
The
you
first
gave
thing
us.
that he sent it almost immediately.
We asked for more answers after that. We ended up going with Fletch first, and then Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. But this was the first answer you offered up when we asked you if you could pick any movie, what would you talk about?
100%. I love this film. This is another VHS, watch it over and over again.
Yeah, this is a real 90s thing.
This movie was maybe never released on DVD.
Yeah,
Probably
is
not.
that- it must be.
But let's say the name of it.
Okay, you
the
say it.
name of the film is The Man Who Knew Too Little.
And this is the pod who cast too little.
It certainly is. It
Yeah.
certainly is.
Yeah, yep.
What was I gonna? Ben has the blank check in
Correct.
the Ben's choice.
Of
You know,
course.
usually we're looking at the blank check career of a director, but in Ben's choice, it's Ben who has the blank
It's the
check.
producer has a blank check.
And he wrote The Man Who Knew Too Little on the check. And
Yeah.
then he deposited it,
Yeah.
and it has cleared.
It has cleared. It
And
showed
here
up.
we are.
Yeah. And let's just we're going to try to talk about it as little as possible. This is our first episode recorded after the election, so we are terrified.
Yeah. You might notice a sort of a deadened thud to everything
Right.
I say.
You might hear the blankness in our eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
The far off stare.
But
Yeah.
we're trying to make sure that everyone has fun times moving forward.
Yeah, that's what we got to do.
Fun times.
We're trying to make sure everyone has fun times.
That's our responsibility.
We figured, this will post a while after, and so we don't want to just, bum
wanna
everyone
harp
out with a total huge, hashing through of everything that's happened. But, I think everyone who listens to the show knows how we feel about this.
Yep.
I mean,
Is no good.
I think we probably, this is post Thanksgiving, so you've already had that awkward interaction with family members that you don't necessarily like. Now Christmas is
possible.
around the corner. That's going to happen again, but whatever.
Think of us as your family members that you do like. And
Yeah.
also, we were originally going to record this episode the day after the election.
Oh.
Because we were so confident, just nice, clean election.
That's true.
Roll straight from that into a podcast about Bill Murray's The Man Who Knew Too Little.
We could not
And we
do
woke
it.
up that morning, we were like, no one will ever want to listen to this if we record this now. So this is us a week out.
So, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
today, it's more like that thing where, you get up, you eat your food, you go to work,
We're trucking along.
yeah, and you can't just admit defeat to your entire life,
Yeah.
as much as you shouldn't admit defeat, about certain things, but also, we should just you can't just lie in bed for 4 years feeling miserable as much
What's
as you
that?
might want to.
Wait, what's that?
oh,
it
it's a
sounds like some
snapping.
cool snapping.
A cool snapping.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's start this.
Yeah. Sorry,
All right,
guys.
so
all right, Ben's here.
I love the snapping in this movie.
I forgot how stylish this movie was. It starts off so jazzy.
That's right.
It's a jazzy little movie.
It's a jazzy
The Man
little
Who Knew
picture.
Too Little. I'm going to point one thing out about it.
Okay.
It came out in 1997. to bad reviews and poor financial receipts.
Yep.
It was, I feel like, we'll talk about Bill Murray in a second, but it was kind of in his real kind of bottoming out, I feel like, in terms of coolness, especially, but also in terms of like box office success. It was sort of when before his Rushmore Lost in Translation bounce back as, you know, like, ooh, cool, arty actor and like fun personality again, right? Like, you know, ooh, mysterious. Oh, he's got a secret answering machine and no agent, and
Rushmore
shows up at a bar.
Rushmore is the year after this. This is the last chapter
in like Bill Murray's a star, right?
I'd say this is.
Shouldn't he be in some movies?
I'd say that's phase 2 of Bill Murray, right?
I'd say phase 3.
You think this is the end of phase 3?
Yeah, let me give you the phases.
Okay. So phases of Bill.
Phase 1 is Bill Murray, young comedy star.
Yes.
Meatballs 79.
Right. So we're talking, okay, Second City dude gets hired onto SNL.
Oh, Jesus.
Replacement for Chevy Chase.
Yes.
Hold on. Who's Bill Murray?
That's what we're doing. God.
No, but there's a story here that I think is very telling, okay?
Okay.
The sort of Rosetta Stone to Bill Murray.
Oh, Jesus.
Chevy Chase is the breakout star of SNL.
Yes.
He does one season.
I know.
Wins the Emmy.
Yeah.
Leaves.
Yeah. Bill Murray's introduced as replacement. People hate it.
They
don't like it. Bill Murray does like sort of these self-deprecating sketches sometimes where he's like...
Well, there's one specific one, and overnight he becomes a star.
Yes.
He does a couple months on the show. He's bombing. He goes on Weekend Update, and he sits in the chair, and they go, here's our new cast member, Bill Murray. And he goes, look, I know what you're wondering. Why isn't this guy funny? I know. I agree. I'm funny all the time with my friends. I've been funny on stage before. And then I watch the show, and I go, who is this guy? He's not funny.
Right.
And he said what we're all thinking, and overnight Bill Murray fucking, it hits.
Yeah,
Next
that's
episode.
77, I believe.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so he becomes now this...
Becomes a thing.
This new face of comedy.
He's a hit. All right, so in 79, he's in Meatballs.
Which is a surprise hit.
Yeah. And then I'm skipping some of his movies, you know, there's like Where the Buffalo Roam, but like his big movies. In
Hunter S.
80,
Thompson. Yeah.
In 80, Caddyshack.
That's Where the Buffalo Roam is the only one in between Caddyshack and Meatballs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Meatballs, I think they thought was a throwaway. Oh, here's the new guy on SNL.
And it's
Ivan Reitman's first movie. It cost like $1 million.
Silly little camp comedy.
It was made in Canada, and then it is a breakout hit. And they go, oh, maybe Bill Murray may be a movie star.
Caddyshack, huge hit.
Huge. Supporting part in that, but it shows him playing a goofier side. His character becomes quite iconic.
81, Stripes, huge hit. Huge hit.
And now he's got some juice. Now he's like molding star vehicles. Stripes.
Now it's like put Bill Murray on your poster. You're in good shape.
Because Stripes was originally a Cheech and Chong movie. Do you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Ivan Reitman was, had been producing, was trying to get into directing and writing, and pitched Cheech and Chong in the Army. It went pretty far, and then Cheech and Chong decided they didn't want to do it. Yeah. He had already made Meatballs. Yeah. Bill Murray was on a roll, and he said, Bill, who would your second guy be? And he goes, I like Harold Ramis. He's my friend. He's a writer. He was one of the best improvisers as a straight man, and he makes Harold Ramis a movie star as well.
Yep.
And Stripes, huge.
You like Stripes, Benny?
It's like, honestly, another favorite comedy of mine. It's so good.
Stripes, a movie, my favorite line from Freaks and Geeks is when they're comparing Bill Murray movies and trying to pick which is the best one. And someone goes, Stripes, and he goes, Sam Weir goes, but you can't tell me what happens in the second half of Stripes.
Sure.
Because every moment that everyone loves in Stripes happens in the first half of the movie. And if you ask someone what happens in the second half of Stripes, you go, they steal it's like an RV, and then there's like John Larroquette.
I'm moving on.
Stripes is fun.
82, Tootsie.
Okay.
Sporting role.
You pepper him in.
Sporting role, but huge hit, Oscar winner, or at least nominee. I think it won a couple Oscars. Because like Jessica Lange, and I think it won a screenplay.
Yeah.
Huge hit.
But that's also a new shade of him.
Absolutely.
It's him fitting into someone else's movie, not a Bill Murray movie. You know?
And at this point, he's left SNL.
Okay.
So he's striking out.
Now, what does he want to do? He wants to make the Razor's Edge more than anything.
He really wants to make the
Somerset
Razor's
novel.
Edge.
He's trying to make it. Everyone goes, you're Bill Murray. You're a comedy star.
He wrote it.
You're a goofball. Who would let you make a Razor's Edge movie? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's trying to use that Tootsie Juice. His seed will find no purchase, right?
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd had written Ghostbusters as Belushi and Aykroyd. Set up with Reitman.
Belushi dies.
And they go, fuck, what do we do? The third guy was supposed to be Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
I think, Harold Ramis, they brought Harold Ramis on to rewrite the script.
We're not going to do a whole Ghostbusters thing. Jesus Christ. He makes
we'll
Ghostbusters kind of as like, hey, if I do this, will you let me do the Razor's Edge?
That was
right?
the deal.
Yeah.
He says, my salary for Ghostbusters, and he got paid as well, is you have to finance the Razor's Edge.
Right. So, does that, makes the Razor's Edge. That's kind of a bomb.
No one likes it.
He's like, fuck you guys. I hate everyone. Bill Murray, phase 1, over. Stops making movies. Doesn't make any movies.
Well, you forgot Ghostbusters is humongous.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think people...
You left that off, right?
People are aware. But yeah.
Ghostbusters is fucking
Ghostbusters is
ginormous, and Bill Murray drops the mic, goes to the Sorbonne.
Because the Razor's Edge, he goes to the Sorbonne. What else does he do?
He's afraid of fame.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it.
He kind of pulls like a Dave Chappelle, you know, sort of like that thing where it's like...
He thinks there's something more to life.
He goes out on top, maybe, or everyone's like, what happened there?
He goes to the Sorbonne and for 3 years studies philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine that in present day.
All right,
if one of our biggest movie stars...
I don't want to jerk his dick off too much because I feel like Bill Murray gets jerked off too much.
I'm not saying that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, no, but
I'm just
sure.
saying, imagine the
Dave
effect.
Chappelle.
Right.
Dave Chappelle.
Imagine if Chris Pratt tomorrow was like, fuck, and he went to the Sorbonne for 3 years.
Or like, imagine James Franco like started painting, or I don't know, like writing poetry, or like
I don't think
master.
Franco really was crubbing for Murray. Actually,
he
if you
was
think
a little
about
bit,
it. Yeah.
but neither of those are the same as Bill Murray.
I just think that's a bizarre thing that wouldn't happen today.
Except Dave Chappelle. I mean, he didn't go to the Sorbonne, but like it happens once in a while.
I think that would be the same if Dave Chappelle then went on to do movies and had as much success in movies as he did on TV.
All right, look, this is semantic.
And then
it'd be like producer Ben getting into fashion or something.
No, that's we can't stop that, baby.
Oh, it's happening.
For the next 4 years, Bill Murray makes one appearance in film.
He's in Little Shop, in
one of
a
the funniest
cameo.
scenes in the history of movies, but
Great.
it's one scene. And then he comes
He
back.
has like a brief. He plays himself, and she's having a baby.
Is that after though?
Yeah, it's 88.
Okay.
Your Amazon list is shit.
Anyway. Between 1984 and 1988, the only film appearance he makes is Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back in 1988, much ballyhooed, return Scrooge. Scrooge is a hit.
Not a particularly well-received film, but a hit. And
it was kind of seen as a little bit of a disappointment.
This is phase
huge.
2 Murray.
Right. This is phase 2.
Which is like, I'm Bill Murray, and I'm back doing Bill Murray.
Yes.
Scrooged. Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Now, both of these movies are humongous hype. Everyone's so excited. Murray's back. He's working with heavy hitters. And both of them do well, but not as well as Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are kind of like middling reception. Or like, it's funny in parts. It's kind of okay. It feels like it's missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to have him back, but it feels like maybe the magic's gone, right? He directs his first film, Quick
Change, which I've never seen.
I've never seen. A lot of people love.
Yeah, but it's certainly not. It doesn't make a big impact.
Was not a hit.
Makes What About Bob, which I think is like a pretty fun movie.
Yes, and was well regarded and famously
not the best, but
Steven Spielberg, our next subject on Blank Check,
go on,
thought that Bill Murray's performance in What About Bob was transcendent and spent $1 million of his own money launching a Best Actor campaign for Bill Murray. I swear to God, this is true. Because the studio was like, it's a Bill Murray comedy. We're not going to push him for Best Actor.
So he just threw down his marker on it.
Now, around this time, a lot of big dramatic roles almost get offered to Bill Murray. Penny Marshall wanted Bill Murray to play the De Niro part in Awakenings.
Yeah.
Jonathan Demme wanted Bill Murray to play the Tom Hanks part in Philadelphia. Robert Zemeckis wanted Bill Murray to play Forrest Gump.
No, not okay.
These are all weird choices, right?
Sure, but some of them might have panned out.
But there was this shift. All these big, heavy hitter directors were trying to put him in their dramas, or dramedies at least.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really happening. But there was already this sort of growing tide of maybe Bill Murray has more guts as an actor.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure. Okay. Then he makes Groundhog. But one famous thing, or less maybe well-known thing, is that he and Richard Dreyfuss, the two stars of What About Bob, hated each other and fought the whole time. And this is the first time I think people are starting to hear, like, Bill Murray, bit of a brittle guy, a little brittle.
And very much does his own thing. And now he, like, fires his agent. He fires his manager.
Well, Groundhog Day, though.
He only has a lawyer. Well, sure. I know, but this is all happening
I'm
this
just
time
finishing my phase 2. My phase 2 ends with Groundhog Day, in my opinion. This is my argument. You can contribute.
Oh, phase 2 is short. I agree with you. Phase 2 is mostly sucked up by the Sorbonne.
But phase 2, but it's that sort of like that pocket of Bill Murray starring roles that are mostly good and or like kind of Ghostbusters 2 and Scrooge, like maybe not as good as you want them to be, but at least like there's some there. And
he hasn't made that many movies, but this is already now we're in our third decade of Bill Murray being a star.
Yeah.
He's been big in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, so he's weathered cultural changes, which I always think is interesting when that happens.
And you end on this great high with Groundhog Day.
Right.
Which is a perfect film.
A masterpiece, and he and Harold Ramis.
Him and Ramis, collaborating to make, I think, each one's best thing. arguably.
And by all accounts, they had very different ideas of what the movie should have been.
They fought the whole time.
The movie ended up meeting somewhere in the middle, which worked to our advantage.
It did, and then they never spoke again until Ramis died.
They reconnected in the last 2 years of his life.
No, I heard it was way, like last few months of Ramis's life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Towards the end. They
really near the end when they went to Murray and they said, like, this is, like, now is the time, basically.
There's the New Yorker piece about Ramis doing the Ice Harvest, where he keeps on saying that he wants to hire Bill Murray.
That piece is such a...
That piece is incredible. I can't recommend it enough.
It really, you guys should check it out. It's such a great piece because, one, Ramis just seems like a terrific guy.
And Ice Harvest is a very underrated movie.
Yeah, I've never seen the Ice Harvest. I should check it out
a lot. I think it's
Maybe
really strong. I'd love to do a Ramis.
I mean, there's some duds in there, but
Yeah, but that's what makes them interesting.
But
the one other thing that happens in Phase 2 that's kind of interesting because it sort of pretends what will happen later is Mad Dog and Glory, which is John McNaughton off of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Good movie, really good Murray performance.
De Niro's in that one, right? And Uma Thurman. Yeah.
And Murray's playing the heavy. They sort of flip expectations on Murray and De Niro, and Murray plays it pretty straight. Murray's role is he's a mobster who always wanted to be a comedian, and he's painfully unfunny.
Sure. Okay. All right.
De Niro is a lighthearted crime scene photographer.
Cool.
And Murray's got a great scene where he goes to do an open mic for the first time, and he just can't land a joke. And
Richard Price wrote that. Interesting.
It's a good movie.
Okay.
But that's sort of the start of Bill Murray dipping his toes into being more of a company player in lighter dramas.
So my argument for Phase 3 is it's a mix of some fun little supporting roles like Ed Wood, like Kingpin. Right? Like that's good stuff. Wild Things, kind of. You know,
I would agree.
He's all right in that.
Yeah.
With, I mean, the most obvious one that I was just Larger Than Life, which is Bill Murray goes on a road trip with an elephant.
Yeah, and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're Bill Murray. You could do any movie you wanted. Why are you doing this?
How did this? Is this one of those things where it's like someone convinced you your kid would enjoy it if you made this movie? And another part of Phase 3 is The Man Who Knew Too Little, which is sort of like comes out, everyone shrugs, gets forgotten pretty quickly until Benny uncovers it in the sands, pulls it out. But and then Phase 4 or whatever is like critically acclaimed Bill Murray, right? It's like
Well, okay, so just a couple more things.
Rushmore.
Right. A couple more things to throw out here, okay? One is I looked up other films that he had turned down from that period of time. Kindergarten Cop, we'd previously mentioned, was designed to be a Bill Murray vehicle. Rain Man, they wanted him to play the Dustin Hoffman role.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there was like that kind of, he was the topless guy. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Sure.
He was not first choice, but he was certainly someone high up on the list.
I'm sure he could have gotten that role.
Philadelphia, I was wrong. They wanted him to play the Denzel Washington part.
Oh, that makes sense. You know what, though? Denzel's better.
People versus Larry Flint to play Larry Flint.
Sure.
Which obviously makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then famously, he never found out that they had offered him Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story because, as I said, doesn't have an agent, doesn't have a manager, has a lawyer, and he has a 1-800 number you can call up and leave a message.
This is the legend of Bill Murray.
Misses stuff.
Right.
But that's a key to this, okay? Because what he really doubles down on is pre-existing relationships.
Yeah.
So, like, Ramis was his guy. Reitman was one of his guys. He never really breaks off with Reitman, but they stop working together.
But he loses these people. He does.
But he latches onto a new guy named Howard Franklin.
Sure. Who made...
writes and directs Larger Than
Life.
Is one of the writers on this. Co-directed Quick Change with him. And then his other guy is Mitch Glazer, who is a comedy writer and starts writing on all of his movies. Wrote on Scrooge with Michael O'Donoghue. One of the greatest comedy writers of all time.
SNL legend.
And starts... Glazer and Franklin become the guys that he hitches rag into. And they're not at the same level as Ramis and Reitman.
We should also mention he's in Space Jam in that period as
Which I think is one of his 5 best performances, and I've gotten lambasted for this online.
Yeah, you're wrong. Having just rewatched that movie.
He's unbelievable in that movie.
I think he's good.
I think that movie's the epitome of what he is capable of.
I mean, the thing is...
Comedically, on a pure comedic level.
I think he's funny. I honestly... I'm going to put this out there. Just put it out into the world.
Space Jam's not a good movie.
I really don't like that movie.
No, it's a shitty movie.
I don't even like it. Like, on any level.
I'm fascinated by it because it's the most crassly designed movie of all time.
Yeah, that's a good call.
You know? Like, I've always been kind of fascinated by how reverse engineered the movie is.
That Mitch Glazer guy wrote fucking Rock the Casbah.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
he
just keeps coming back to these.
And that movie Passion Play, he starts linking up with the wrong guys. But
you know
he's
what?
a loyalty guy because Mitch Glazer and Howard Franklin can get his number. They know how to reach him.
But also, he'll be in any Wes Anderson project. Like Jim Jarmusch can, get him and put him in a few things. Like whatever,
And
those guys.
this is the great kind of catch-22 of Bill Murray. Is if he's aligned with someone good, he's going to keep on doing good work with them. If he's aligned with someone bad, he's going to keep on doing bad work with them.
And who made St. Vincent? Does he have?
That's a new guy, Ted Melfi.
And that's the guy who made Hidden Figures.
Correct.
This supposed to be good.
So I've heard it's good. I don't like St. Vincent. But he was a guy who apparently just gave a very impassioned voicemail on the 1-800 number, got through to him, as with the guy who did that movie Get Low, which I thought was underwhelming, but Murray was solid in.
Yeah, that movie's well acted.
Right. Yeah. But, at this point, post-Groundhog Day...
But yeah, we're really nestled in that, like, the real wilderness years for Bill Murray, where he doesn't have as much of an identity.
His leading roles suck.
He's lost his cool.
Yes, he's definitely
cool.
lost his cool.
Right?
He feels like a third-tier comedy star.
And Ben,
now.
Please rejoin us. But, I mean, in The Man Who Knew Too Little, the joke is that he's not cool.
Right.
Which I feel like is not usually the Bill Murray way.
Bill Murray's defining characteristic used to be that he's the smartest guy in the room.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't want the people who are dumber to him to even understand that he's smarter than them. He wants...
And this is
it's all under his breath.
Subversion.
It's the snarky, over-the-shoulder...
The whole point is that he's not smart. He's so not smart that he doesn't even get what's happening around him, and it's funny.
This is Bill Murray as Doofus. Before, a year later, Wes Anderson digs him up and goes, I'm going to mine the pathos in Bill Murray and make it clear that the smartest guy in the room thing was a defensive wall against how pained he is. And that becomes the forefront. They dig that up and make that the text rather than the subtext.
Now, that's all. I agree with you. Now, I want to ask Ben Hosley a question, because this is his episode, I suppose.
Yeah.
Ben,
hey,
tell us about your love and experiences.
Yeah, I
got
to hear this because I'm a huge Bill Murray fan.
Me too.
Me too.
I love him. I was raised in a household. We've talked in the past about.
Me too. Yeah.
About
your parents had their guys and they're not guys.
Bill Murray was
they
the
liked
guy.
Bill Murray. They didn't like Jim Carrey or whatever.
We could see any. That's the exact example. Bill Murray. We could see any Bill Murray picture. I saw this on my parents' opening weekend, and I remember my dad reading the reviews and saying, "The Bill Murray movie's not supposed to be pretty good, but it's Bill. I mean, we got to go see it." It was like. It's going to be a Murray movie. At the very least, it's better than someone else's worst movies. Sure. Inherently, because Bill Murray is a more interesting comedic leading man than most.
Sure.
Ben, tell me about how you first saw this movie.
I was introduced to it by my good friend's older brother. And really, he didn't sell this to me as a Bill Murray movie. He was like, this is such a really... well written and just like great funny gags. You guys are gonna love this. And are you a
teenager?
I was probably just starting high school. Yeah, and was really into comedy, a huge comedy nerd. But at the same time, I very much still in my mind, I know Bill Murray's in this movie. Right. He's great in it, but this is not a Bill Murray movie.
No.
It's just weird almost to think about his career and then think about this film and the kind of performances he's given.
He's
in the
good.
past.
He's very good in the film. I think he's very funny, but you're right. It's not like a quote unquote like Bill Murray movie in the way that some of these movies we've been talking about are.
Well, and when you talk about him giving good supporting performances, this kind of feels like a Bill Murray supporting performance stretched out to the lead. And I don't mean that in a good or bad way, but most Bill Murray vehicles from his peak, there was definitely a sense of authorship to the movie. Bill Murray was the co-author, not just because he's known for improvising so much of his dialogue, but because Bill Murray, at the height of his comedic prowess, kind of had this Bugs Bunny aspect to him, where it felt like he was always stepping 1 inch in front of the movie and kind of winking to the audience and being like, that's the thing that elevates Ghostbusters. That's what makes it work, is here's this high-stakes, insane premise.
Especially, and you've got Aykroyd and Ramis
believes all this shit and has thought about it so much, and the world building and the plot, and Bill Murray's kind of going like, ain't I a stinker? I mean, what the fuck is this stuff? He's winking to the audience.
Which is, in Ghostbusters, it is such a tight line, because it's like, he's still a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
And he still, gets in trouble for being a Ghostbuster and, believes in the Ghostbusting, but at the same time, he's like, you guys with your crossing the streams, I don't know.
But that's the magic trick.
Trying to get laid over here.
That's the magic trick that makes him a legendary movie star, in my opinion, is to be able to do that and not destroy the reality of the movie you're in. To be able to sort of comment on it, but maintain the propulsiveness and the stakes and the emotional resonance. I think it's different because they don't ask her to do anything character-wise like that in the movie. But I did feel a similar sort of vibe to McKinnon in the new Ghostbusters, where it feels like she's commenting on the movie a little bit from outside of it.
Sure.
The difference is that she's not the hero character.
Yeah, she's
the
not
supporting
the lead.
weirdo.
She's very much the supporting weirdo.
But it feels like she's able to deconstruct a little bit.
Okay,
she's fucking
we're not
amazing.
talking about that movie.
I'm not going to talk about that yet. But
Yes.
but now in The Man Who Knew Too Little, Bill Murray's just in the movie.
Yeah.
He's in the movie. He's a part of the
The
movie in the
movie's
same
happening
way.
to him.
Right, in the same way that Little Shop of Horrors or Kingpin, where it's like he's part of the plot.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
He's showing up, he's acting, he's doing his role, he's playing it well, but he's just part of the tapestry now.
Another thought I had too is I around this time recall being obsessed with very jokey movies like Airplane and The Naked Gun.
Sure,
and
movies that really throw the jokes at you. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I still have like such a soft spot for those kinds of films that are like just like all about breaking the momentum of the plot or the story to just be like, here's a fun little like aside.
Right.
I love that kind of stuff.
But I would say this isn't that kind of a movie.
Well, I think it falls into that realm in my mind because I feel like it's sort of a satire or like a parody of a like a genre.
But
or
it has like a real plot.
It's really
does,
plotty. This is a very plotty comedy.
I mean,
true.
like the whole point of it is like there's this sort of story, quote unquote, that he's sure that he's in.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, every new situation sort of it all has to sort of magically link into both like his fantasy and the reality. My right earphone just went out.
Mine too.
Okay, it's back.
There we go. Here's a question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did this film not come out the same year as David Fincher's The Game?
You know what? That's a great question.
Right? I was really proud that I thought of that.
That's with Sean Penn, right?
And Michael
Mikey
Douglas is
Doug.
the one doing the game.
Yeah.
Sean Penn
Yeah,
is the
97.
Peter Gallagher. They're both the same setup, which is a brother.
This comes out 2 months after the Fincher flick. Yeah,
both those
brother's
movies-
like, hey, take a load off.
Yeah.
There's this interactive theater thing that's hip. Why don't you do it?
Right.
Except in the game, Sean Penn is like actually, I think, trying to give Michael Douglas a good time, whereas in this, Peter Gallagher's just trying to like get Bill Murray out of the house for a few hours.
Right, and the difference is in the game, Michael Douglas starts suspecting that it might not be a game anymore. And in The Man Who Knew Too Little, Bill Murray always believes he's still part of the theater.
Right, absolutely.
Like the heightening is that the more absurd of these situations unfolds, it's like, how could you not realize you're not in some weird interactive theater piece?
Right. But it's an interesting parallel that these two movies come out at the same time.
Yeah.
I guess the point where that sort of has some sort of cultural purchase is the idea of these living theater shows.
That's amazing.
Because I even remember my mom and dad, when we went to go see this, my little brother James, he went to go see The Man Who Knew Too Little. I must have been 8.
Sure.
And we saw it opening weekend, and I said, so what's the plot of this? I didn't even have to know. It's a Bill Murray movie. I'm excited.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And they said, it's like a guy who's in a living theater piece, and he thinks he's in a living theater piece, but he gets caught up in the thing. And I went, what's a living theater piece?
Yeah, which is a fair question.
They tried to explain it to me, and I was just like, okay, I guess I'll
The
take
movie
it.
tries to explain
I'll
it
take
to
it from you that this is a real thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was a thing that had like a very limited moment that
it
then
was
didn't
probably
really catch
on
on.
Vogue for 6 months,
Right.
and so 2 movies,
2 years
one
later.
one hyper dramatic and one extremely comic, were made about it. This is based on a novel, though.
Yeah, which is really interesting. But then Howard Franklin, because this is my sense of what happened. The novelist adapts his own novel, right? He's one of 2 credited screenwriters, and then the other credited writer is Howard Franklin. I'm guessing he adapted his own novel, then someone had the idea, what if we made this into a Bill Murray vehicle, and Howard Franklin made it more comedic.
Right.
More gaggy, you know?
Yeah.
I also think it is interesting. I forgot the thing I was going to say.
Okay. So
I'll get back to it at
You
some
saw
point.
this in theaters.
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I remember enjoying it. I remember knowing it was like second tier Murray.
Had you seen it? Have you seen it again since you watched it for this podcast?
No, this was the first time watching it, and here's what's really interesting. I had misremembered it a lot
Okay.
because I had remembered an entire subplot that didn't exist.
Okay.
I thought the real Spencer, when he shows up, gets
Right.
sucked into it and spends the whole movie on a parallel narrative going
With
through
the theater
play.
people, which might have been funny, except I think the play is short. I don't think it's like...
Yeah.
Although it's supposedly
They say
3.5
it's like
hours,
3.5 hours,
but
yeah.
it seems like there's not a lot to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
Anyway.
know.
But that
either.
would be kind of cool. Ben,
Hey guys. So,
how many times you watch this shit?
oh fuck, a fucking million times.
Okay.
I've like fallen asleep to this like a million times. Me and my friends would just like toss around like the all the like dumb little quotable lines like obsessively.
I saw this film once before, I was in Sag Harbor, where my elementary school friend had a country home.
Humble brag.
I guess so. And we were hanging out there, and we went to the video rental store to rent a video because we were like 10 years old. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And the clerk, who was, in retrospect, was obviously like a huge Bill Murray fan.
In retrospect, was obviously Ben Hosley.
Probably. Yeah. Was like, oh, it's great. The Man Who Knew Too Little. You should rent this. And we were like, okay. And like, I assume I think it's rated like PG-13 or whatever. So like, it was, acceptable for us to rent this movie.
Sure.
We watch it. And I remember I thought like, oh, that was okay. And my friend was like, that was terrible. And he had a whole thing about the clerk. And he's like, man, that clerk recommended Larger Than Life last week. Like, he's just into Bill Murray. Like, this sucks. So he was really mad about it.
I remember
I hadn't seen it again since.
But I remember the other point I was going to make that I forgot. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I lived in Britain at this point, and this movie has a lot of British actors in it who I knew well from their British, especially David Thompson and Richard Wilson.
That was going to be my question, because it feels like a lot of unknown actors here who I assume did a lot of TV and stage in England.
And Molina at the time, he's mostly a British actor right now.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about both of them. But Richard Wilson, who plays, I guess, the chief spy guy, the old man who's bald. And then David Thompson, who's one of the Butcher's sidekicks, and he has this kind of flat-toppy, he's sort of stocky. Both those guys were like they're comedy legends in Britain. So I was like, huh?
They're like a team.
There they are, yeah.
I remember the other point I was going to make was the other interesting thing about this movie is that they hired John Amiel to direct it, who had done no comedies up until this and did no comedies after.
Well, he had done The Singing Detective, which is not a comedy, but is sort of on TV.
Yes.
Which is sort of like an arch spy movie. So maybe that's what they were thinking. The famous British miniseries, The Singing Detective, not the Robert Downey Jr. starring remake.
He did a radio romantic thriller called Tune In Tomorrow with Keanu Reeves and Barbara Hershey, America's Sweethearts.
Man, I love Keanu Reeves, and I have never heard of that movie.
Me neither. But Singing Detective is the big thing that puts him on the map. He was mostly a TV director before that. Then Queen of Hearts, Summersby, Copycat.
Yeah, Summersby and Copycat are both like big mainstream Hollywood movies that don't go anywhere. You know, like there's a world in which Summersby was one of the Oscar winners of 1993 or whatever. Yeah. And instead it's like, oh, some movie with Richard Gere that nobody remembers.
And then the year after Man Who Knew Too Little, he does Entrapment, which is a big hit.
A moderate hit. I saw that in theaters.
I remember that movie kind of popping.
Sean Connery. It was okay.
Then he does The Core, which was a big flop.
Yeah, bad movie.
Bad movie. Costs a lot of money. And then he pretty much makes TV after that. The only other narrative feature he makes the Darwin movie, which was the Jennifer Connelly, Paul Bettany, and that movie didn't go anywhere either. So, like, Man Who Knew Too Little is a real anomaly on his filmography.
It's an odd one, but I mean, that's maybe why this movie almost plays like a straight drama at points. It's a.
I think that was the idea.
It's like a violent sort of spy movie,
to hire a serious
funny.
director to make the milieu feel grounded. But then it also feels like he's trying to play. I mean, performance-wise, it's very broad. But then visually, it doesn't look like a comedy. It's got a very weird, like it looks like a 60s spy drama.
Because it's set in like a London that doesn't pop.
No.
It's kind of set in a pre-Cool Britannia London. So it's like rainy, it's nighttime. It's a little gray.
It's mostly sound stages. Like all the interiors feel like sound stages that are pretty stylized. Like it doesn't look realistic.
Sure.
It's heightened.
Yeah, it's heightened. But
dark.
Dark, and like the theater for new people or whatever it's called, that's kind of gross.
Yeah.
You know, like the scenario they have, which is like a sort of abusive boyfriend, and you have to like protect the girl.
But then within that, you have, like, not just, like, Bill Murray being goofy, but the other characters are goofy, too. I mean, even, like, the dude, who is it, the minister who keeps on the other end of the phone, like, negotiating with him.
Is that... Yeah, that's who I'm talking about, Richard Wilson, the bald guy.
Yeah. Right, and he's playing it, like, pretty much to the rafters, and then you have
that guy's I'll talk about him in a second.
He's a ham sandwich. But I'm just saying, it's like there's a very interesting combination of tones in this movie.
This, to me, plays out... especially with the supporting cast, like I was even thinking, like Bill the Butcher looks exactly like I'd imagine him to look like.
Wait, he's not called Bill the Butcher, is he? Boris the Butcher.
Boris the Butcher.
Bill the Butcher's from.
Can we dive further into that statement? Boris the Butcher looks exactly how you imagine Boris the Butcher to look. Based on what prior to you seeing Boris the Butcher?
Because when someone says, "Hey, this is my friend Boris, he's a butcher," and I go, I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, that's what he would look like."
Okay.
What?
Can I quickly quote one of my favorite things my sister ever said?
Sure.
Your sister comes up almost every week these days.
She's one of my best friends.
I know.
she was like,
wait, is she part of the? No, not the two friends. That's you two.
No. We're the two friends. # the two friends. Come on, Ben. Someone tweeted us a bar in Florida that was called the Two Friends.
Oh, cool.
Like a napkin from there.
I think I missed that. Okay, all right. What did your sister
anyway,
say?
I got home from school and my sister was sitting there at the table. She was drawing with crayons.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Hey, Rom, how was school today?" And she said, "It was good. We went to the aquarium. You know how you always imagine what sea lions would look like?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess." And she went, "That's exactly what they look like."
That's pretty cute.
I just still think that's one of the funniest things I've ever
heard.
heard.
That's great kid wisdom.
You know how you always imagine what sea lions would look like? That's exactly what they look like. She was so excited.
That's great.
Anyway.
The wisdom of children. That's what we need right now.
Yeah. We got to shrink my sister back down to a 4-year-old.
We got to do it.
I mean, I will say that the performances are great. I don't know if I'm paying attention to that as much as just how the story unfolds, because I think the story and the writing is so just tight and on point and funny.
Well, you kind of like noir. You've talked about this a lot.
I do.
You
love
like that
detective
that
stuff.
milieu. You like that.
It's
that
kind
vibe.
of a fun little. It's fun thinking about how this movie works. You know, it is fun watching its little cogs click together. So you've got he goes to the theater of the thing, and the improv, the live improv thing that he's supposed to be part of, and this dead drop that a spy is part of, are both happening at the same payphone, and that's how this mix-up happens. Bill Murray gets diverted onto the
Russian nesting doll, all that stuff. I mean, I kept on thinking, I guess in my head I had rewritten it to have the parallel narrative with the criminal now getting into the theater piece.
I had always remembered the thing where the criminal, or the spy, whoever it is with the gun,
the real Spencer,
is confronted with the fake improv setup, and then he shoots the guy.
See,
I had always remembered that because it's so cold-blooded, and it's funny, but it's dark, pretty dark. And I remember when I was 11 being like, whoa.
Yeah, see, I just remember that plotline going on for a long time, which I think if the movie pulled off that, I'd be fucking standing O. If you could, the machinations to make both of those things fit together.
This is a short movie, P.S. This is a 90-minute movie.
But it's an interesting picture.
Yeah, so I think you guys are sort of even getting into the plot. So
let's just take us on our tour.
Let's just get us to where you mentioned the payphone. So it starts off, and you see the setup of there's a bomb being planted in this Russian nesting doll. You don't know
with a little animated Pink Panther-y kind of jazzy cartoon.
Oh yeah. Well, I was doing
credit.
the snaps before.
Right. Yeah, the snaps.
Okay. And then we meet Wallace Ritchie at the airport, and he's Bill Murray, and he's a silly, silly man.
I like the airport scene a lot, where he has the drawn-out conversation with the passport
guy. How long
guy.
are you going to be staying in England? He goes, that's a good question. And then
I think that's some good Bill Murray shit.
It's just bits for days, this movie. It's so good.
Bits for days.
God,
Ben,
damn.
you're a weird guy.
I am. So,
Ben, let me tell you something about yourself.
What's up?
You're a weird guy.
Come on.
Ben?
Yeah.
You're weird, though.
Thank you.
Keep on trucking.
So we truck on to, then we have the brother Richie.
Yeah.
At home. And
Peter Gallagher.
He's a
businessman.
Best performance in the movie?
I think
Gallagher's
so
really
good in
in
this.
this.
I think Peter Gallagher's a hysterically funny guy.
He's great. He's such a good straight man in this.
He's one of those guys who has such a straight appearance and sort of voice and tone, but most of his career is doing comedies and upending that.
There's something a little off.
There's something
those
a little
pussy willows.
Those big Gallagher pussy willows over his eyes.
Those big eyebrows.
When they start wiggling. When those pussy willows start wiggling.
He's the best. Obviously, Gallagher's a big Broadway star who transferred over to Hollywood just fine, but never is a star.
Because he was a leading man on Broadway.
Absolutely.
And
Pal Joey.
Yes.
Guys and Dolls.
But the thing is, when you put him in pictures, he's often kind of a parody of a leading man.
Exactly. Like in The Player or in, what's another...
plays the guy who's too slick. He's the one who needs to learn his lesson. He plays the fool.
The slick guy. Yeah.
Right. But he never plays. He doesn't play straight leading man. There's Summer Loving, which was his big romantic whatever. He did good work with Altman. Mr. Deeds, he's like the fucking stiff upper lip guy who's trying to wrestle the money.
He plays a fair amount of villains.
He's a good villain.
Oh, American Beauty, of course.
Oh, he's
classic.
Great in.
So good. The King. He's the King.
The King.
But then, of course, he makes the OC and transfers into sort of more like legendary dad territory. But also his role in the OC is very much like everyone's like, God, we're all rich and crazy. And then he's just like, these guys are full of
He's
shit.
good at deflating. And he's doing killer dad work on New Girl these days. He plays Schmidt's dad.
It's an interesting, because that's flawed dad, too. Real flawed dad.
He's playing a really good, broken, sad kind of guy in that.
He's good.
He's a good actor. Okay. Wallace Ritchie, cut to him, Ben.
Well, we see the brother Richie.
Puts Gallagher. The rich in Richie, this guy.
And then, just kind of doing work for the story purpose. They do then the newscast of the Theater of Life, which is setting up essentially that there's this theater company where for 3.5 hours you can be involved in this immersive theater sort of production where you're like not on a stage, but going to actual locations on the streets and in apartments and whatnot.
And it's that thing I love where the local news reports on interesting trends in underground theater.
Yeah. I mean, you see that all the time.
All the time. Whenever I turn on ABC 7 Eyewitness News, they're always talking about the new shows at La Mama.
Oh, boy.
Okay, well, so... Wallace then, arrives at his brother's home. He surprises him. It's his birthday.
It's Bill Murray's character's birthday.
Yes.
Which is an odd move to show up for your own birthday.
This is the biggest stretch. Weirdly, this is the biggest plot stretch in a movie that has to jump a lot of narrative hoops.
And then he's like really pissed, or not pissed, but like bummed that Peter Gallagher doesn't want to hang out because Peter Gallagher's got this like big business deal to land.
Like, you didn't
call. Blue.
The sweaty justification is Peter Gallagher sent his brother money for his birthday, which is clearly a condescending move of, I don't know if you're doing that well, I'm going to give you money because I assume you need some help. Bill Murray chooses to take that money and spend it to go visit his brother in London unannounced. Apparently gets on a flight right away the second the money arrives, because you have to imagine if he sent it for his birthday, it either arrived that morning or maybe a night early.
I guess he just goes to Des Moines Airport and is like, hey, when's your next flight to London? Plop down
got
the money.
Got the envelope, immediately hailed a cab, went to London, right? Shows up on the doorstep.
I'm making this sort of like bemused expression, and no one can see it, but yeah, go on.
For the listeners at home, David looks very bemused.
So bemused. I'm nonplussed. Right, carry on.
Those famous Sims pussy willows are furrowed. Shows up at the doorstep, and Peter Gallagher's like, first of all, you don't even call. Second of all, you picked arguably the biggest night of my life.
Terrible. I'm hosting all these Germans.
You're getting a classic bit, which is...
This is my favorite bit in the entire movie.
Or did we talk about when he picks up the maid and he starts rocking her and he goes, oh, I thought you were going to get married to this stuffy, stuck-up British woman. And then she
chancellor.
Comes out. What was the bit
was hugging
you were going to
Consuela.
say? Yeah.
My favorite bit in the entire movie is he shows up. Peter Gallagher plays the scene very well. Because he's very excited to see his brother.
He is happy to see him.
And then his wife reminds him that he's got the Germans coming over. He got this big presentation.
And a chancellor, famous British actor.
And he very gently says, I don't think... She goes, well, I'll invite him over for the dinner. She goes, look, I don't think Wally's really the kind of guy.
Sure.
He's a fun guy. You need someone with a sense of humor. Like, a lot of movies like this would be like, my brother's an idiot. And he's just kind of going like, look, Wally's a specific taste. And I don't know if I can drop him into this environment.
Right.
And she goes, well, you'll have things to talk about. Don't you work in the film industry? And this was the bit I remember. I lost it at this in the movie. He works at a Blockbuster in Des Moines, Iowa. And the family joke is that he works in the movie industry.
Right.
Which keeps on coming up. I just thought that was such a funny...
I also like that they're like, well, it's like a joke, it's like a funny joke.
But the sister clearly, he's never talked about the brother because the brother's kind of a black sheep who he loves.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about this, though, this is kind of a film about the traditional British concept that Americans don't understand irony.
Yes.
Reverse.
Interesting.
This is like a movie where he goes to Britain. And nobody gets his jokes. Everyone just takes him seriously. Right? Because isn't that kind of the point of the movie is like, no matter what Bill Murray does, everyone from like other spies to the British intelligence agencies to terrorists, like they all just take him totally seriously.
Yeah.
And as does his sister-in-law here, she's like, oh, you're in the film industry. Yeah.
It's
there
also...
I'm with Blockbuster. Like, even just the way he says it too. Oh. God, it makes me laugh.
It's a movie about confidence too, which is interesting. I mean, they kind of they tell don't show this, and it doesn't end up really being an emotional arc to the movie. But Peter Gallagher sets up that like he always wanted to be an actor. He got the lead role in the play, and he froze up and he forgot all his lines. This guy's now working at a Blockbuster. You get the sense that he loves movies, he loves acting, he loves all this stuff, but kind of gave up on him being able to ever do any of it. And the fact that he has a situation without an audience for the first time gives him the confidence to feel like he can live out the type of life he always wanted to live.
Right.
And even though he's constantly admitting to everyone he comes into contact with, like, this is a play, I'm just playing the part, like saying all the stuff.
Yeah, he's all the time being like, hey, can I break character for a second? And everyone just sort of ignores it. Yeah.
And he's being vulnerable. It's not like he's playing macho stud the whole time.
No.
But the fact that he's so strong in his convictions, which in context to them looks like a fearlessness and a certain guile.
Yeah.
Makes everyone open the doors and just go, I mean, let him do what he wants. I don't know how to fight with this guy.
Yeah.
You know,
that's sort of a funny gag.
Not to trumpet too much, but it's like, how do you fight with a guy who's playing a different game than everyone else? You know, you can't fight. You're playing chess, he's playing checkers.
That's a good way to put it.
You're on the same
board.
Chess,
he's playing checkers.
You know, but that's the thing.
Yeah, right.
He never seems confident in the movie.
He's playing one-dimensional chess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's funny too.
Okay, so the brother remembers the newscast. They're looking for a play for him to go see. The big thing is, that's 3.5 hours.
Yes, they're like, perfect. He'll be out of the house for a long time.
Yeah.
Boom,
So-
you jump to that phone booth.
Hells yeah.
All right?
Talked about the phone booth.
They set up,
Remember to flush?
Remember to flush.
Always remember to flush.
Here's the address. Your name's Spencer.
Right, his name's Spencer. And then they set up also that later on, that Brother Richie and Wallace will have 2 Cubans, 2 cigars.
Ambassadors.
Wallace, by
Ambassadors.
the way, is Bill Murray's name.
Yeah.
And the brother is James Ritchie. Yes,
And
the
that-
Ritchie brothers.
This is a character detail that makes it clear that fucking Peter Gallagher isn't just the shirt in this movie. You know?
Sure.
He loves his brother. He hates that he's not able to spend the birthday with the brother.
Yeah.
And he's like, you gotta let me do this, but I promise at the end of the night, before midnight. I like that he points that out. He's like, it's gotta be. He's like, at
Gotta be
midnight.
before midnight
too
'cause it's my
embarrassing.
birthday,
And he's like,
right.
11:59 at the latest. Come on.
And of course, we should say, there's a
2 brothers
an
smoking
undercurrent
cigars.
to the film is Peter Gallagher's little arc of like realizing like, I don't have fun anymore, and you know what, my job's really stifling me, and that.
He's got the emotional arc in the movie.
Yeah, it's true because Bill Murray basically is
Just
like
goes through
unchanged.
the whole thing. Yeah. He's like Mr. Magoo, just walking around the
Bill
buildings
Murray
and the
gets
things.
$3 million and a girlfriend
Right.
from this movie, but his personality and outlook are not changed.
Right, it's the thing where Mr. Magoo would walk through the construction site and you think he's about to walk off the end of the building and then a steel beam comes up and lands just at the right time.
Right.
It's like he's never changing. It's the world is somehow shifting
it's
around
a good
him.
movie star movie.
It is. It's interesting because it's so out of place with the persona he had established at that point, but it is very much a movie star movie.
So then the plot happens.
Correct.
It's too much plot for us to explain everything. But
No,
Oh,
there's
Ben
way
is
too
ready.
much plot. But
It's too much plot for us to explain, not too much for Ben to.
that's true. Okay, so we're going to go right to the mugger scene, okay? Because he's going to the apartment, right, to start playing out this living theater thing. And he's on the streets. These 2 guys approach him. They give me your money, right?
First screen appearance of Eddie Marsan, the great Eddie Marsan, playing Thug Number 1.
And so at first he's scared, and then he laughs in their face. And so thus kind of setting the tone of the movie of where Bill Murray doesn't realize that these real things that are happening around him are not just some fucking play.
Yep.
And it's so fucking funny just to see him like play out these scenes. Like my favorite thing is where he does 2 versions of sort of like his monologue before giving his wallet away.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
He has to, like, reset
Just
and
got
just
a
do it.
couple of kids. Just a couple of kids.
And he also gets really into, like, you know, he's going to put his sunglasses on before he enters a room because he's got this idea of who the character is.
Right.
Right.
Other kind of just like, we're just going to jump ahead. Like then he gets to the apartment, and this is where we sort of meet the girl of the movie, the female,
The femme fatale.
the femme fatale.
Yeah, who is played by Joanne Whaley.
Who's she? Does she do other stuff?
You know, she's a British actress.
Yeah.
She's most famous for being married to Val Kilmer for 8 years.
Oh,
during
that's
his
where
famous
I
years.
know her name. Interesting.
Because they made Willow together.
Interesting.
What else has she been? You know, she's kind of a British TV actress more than anything else. But for a while, she was called Joanne Whaley Kilmer.
Huh.
And this is actually the first movie post-Kilmer.
Interesting.
I think she's super great in this movie. I think I definitely have a little bit of a crush on her too still.
This movie is like some kind of like text for Ben's personality. It is the weirdest thing. I think this, and I want to say, frequent guest and great friend of the show, Emily Yoshida. And I think we talked about it on
Mother of Blankies, yeah.
Mother of Blankies. She loves this movie. And
Really?
she wanted to be on this episode, but I feel like, she was just on an episode.
Right, yeah. She was just on 4 hours of Titanic.
Yeah, we can't ask her to be in that little room again. For a little while at least.
So, but there are people who, and like for some, it was just some movie that I guess her and her mother could agree on, or I can't remember. It was something like that. But there are people who really hold on to this movie, even though this movie was a nothing when it came out. Total nothing.
I was on a plane with my mom last night, and she was like, "What are you going to do on the plane? You load a movie onto your Amazon Fire Kindle?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I got to watch The Man Who Knew Too Little for the podcast tomorrow." And she went, "The Bill Murray movie?" And I went, "Yeah." And she went, "That one? You're talking about that on the podcast?" And I had to explain, like,
the joke.
She knows that she hasn't listened to the show, thank God. But she knows the basic idea of what our show is. And she goes, "How does that fit into anything you would ever talk about?" And I go,
"It's a fair question.
We let Ben choose." And I tried to even explain Ben to her, and I couldn't. I went, "Look, if you met him for 4 minutes, you would immediately understand why we're talking about this movie."
Ben's like, "Look."
And she wasn't being reductive to the movie. She went, like, "No. I remember that movie. It's fun, but, like, I don't understand why you would single out that movie to talk about on the podcast."
If we're like a pitching roster, you know, Griffin and I, we're throwing fastballs, we're throwing curveballs, we're throwing changeups. You know, we're
even sometimes throwing Madballs.
Yeah, we got a repertoire.
Madballs, 90s toy craze, Madballs.
No,
merchandise spotlight, throwing Madballs.
Ben is like a knuckleball pitcher. He like comes in and we're like, you know, we don't know where this is going to end up in the. You know, I don't know. I can't even set the strike zone with this guy.
Ben's throwing knuckleball.
You think the ball's going to go this way, but then it's like, whoop. That's what I'm all about.
Okay. I'm now looking at Madballs. This one passed me by.
They were cool. They were balls and they looked really gross. It was like a head with like snot coming out.
Remember
of it.
when that was like a chief way to appeal to kids? It's like grosser, like grosser.
I want to make America gross
this
again.
Sort of Ren and Stimpy kind of era.
I look at kid shit and I think it's too sleek now. I think kid shit's too concerned with being cool, whereas it used to be concerned with being gross. And I love that whole mentality of like, this isn't for parents. Parents are going to be grossed out. Kids, you speak the language. You know?
Yeah.
Like it was fucking, board games would be based around like fucking snot and vomit. Toys were all like pussy and shit. Slime, gack, phloem.
Gack was big. All right. So, sorry, just.
Queasy Bake Oven? Easy Bake Oven for boys? It was queasy?
Okay, so.
Chocolate dirt cake with worms?
Right, enough.
So we'll just get back into it. He meets the femme fatale. They have a little kind of exchange. At this point in the movie, I feel like they're really like trying to hit you over the head with like her misinterpreting him.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little, I don't know.
The early part, you're kind of like, yeah, I get it.
And playing it real hard. Yeah.
And there's the flush jokes, which I don't think are funny. Flushing a toilet isn't quite enough for me to laugh.
But the absurdity stuff plays so well. Like even just like, what's your name? They just said Spencer. Like I love that. I love that. Like those weird like where he's just trying to like stay in the reality of the play, but like what the person in the real world is interpreting is like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like,
well, and I guess the other thing I can see appealing to you is like the precision of the miscommunication, because in order for a movie like this to work, every line has to be able to be seen from two different angles.
The duality, and I think that really holds up for the most part throughout the movie.
I agree. They make it through most of the film without it getting kind of sweaty. Yeah.
Another favorite part in this scene. And, like, again, I mean, this movie plays out kind of how you would imagine. It's, like, super straightforward for the most part. It's just, like, a lot of hijinks working up towards this bomb sort of, like, big, moment at the end of the film.
In lieu of doing the whole plot, which is a ridiculous concept.
We can't go through
Is there, I mean, I like the car chase scene a lot. I think it's really, I like the way Bill Murray's breaking the reality there, where he's just, like, impressed with the technical proficiency of the car chase. You know, what are some...
Well, it has my favorite line in the movie, too. Which is Bill Murray is, like... I mean, all my favorite lines are in this scene, actually, in the car chase.
Okay.
But he's, like, swerving between the traffic cones and, like, just making a meal out of it and doing everything he'd ever want to do in a car chase, right?
Right.
And he goes, like, this must cost you a fortune. There's no way they can be making a profit on this. Because he's going, like, they have to buy the traffic cones, they have to clear off the blocks. And he just decides to, after swerving through the traffic cones,
clips them off.
Clip them off, and they all pop off. And he goes, God, I always wanted to do that. And they cut to the police car. And the one guy sort of ruefully goes, I always want to do that. And then it pans over to the guy in the driver's seat. And he goes, I just want to do that too.
It looks so fun.
It looks so fun. And that all three of them specifically had this fantasy in their life, driving down the street being wouldn't it be fun to do that?
And also, the movie does it so well, you're like, yeah, that does look fun.
It looks so much fun when they fucking do. I will never drive. I don't like driving as a theory. I've never driven at all.
I like driving.
But I watched this and I'm like, man, it'd be cool to learn how to drive just so I could do that. And then retire from the game.
So
I'll say some
Ben,
another
what's some stuff
favorite
you like?
moment. Laurie and Bill Murray are driving, and he goes, "Are you crying? How do you people do it? Wait, do you poke yourself in the eye, or hold on? Do you think my dog is dead?" God damn it, man, it makes me still laugh to this day, and I've seen this movie a million fucking times.
But I mean, or
do you poke yourself in the eye?
Yeah.
The best thing is the whole Russian dancing.
Yeah.
The movie.
Dave, wait, I don't trust you. Hold on. I don't trust you.
This is just like the Fletch episode where Ben's just making himself laugh with its own line. But the movie's best when it's juggling the most balls, I would say.
I agree.
So that's
juggling the most Russian nesting dolls.
Indeed. So that's why the early scenes with just him and the girl, Laurie. Or, you're like, okay. But the more layers you add onto this, the better it is.
It also, I think the funniest moments are when you have other characters commenting on, this guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I really like that scene. So you've got Alfred Molina, a younger Alfred Molina playing Boris the Butcher. Who's
looking exactly how you imagine a sea
him.
lion would look.
Yeah. I like the scene where Bill Murray, accidentally takes out the two henchmen while he's tied to the hotel chair. And they're just even
the lead up to that is great physical Bill Murray behavioral comedy where he's got his allergies acting up, which they've set up.
Yeah, they've set it up. They layered it in.
Innocuously, didn't feel like foreshadowing. And now he's hacking and coughing and needs his Nasonex while they're
right. So he gets John Thompson.
Is that game Kerplunk?
They are playing Kerplunk, which is a marble version of Jenga, essentially.
Right. It's more fun to say, too.
Definitely. And so John Thompson, who any British person probably knows from The Fast Show. Have you ever heard of The Fast Show?
No, humble brag.
Great sketch show from just great.
Okay.
It's such an innocuous name that there are 1 million John Thompsons, but yeah. He's so funny. I love him. And he's the one who has to squeeze the nasal spray.
Yeah, and it's not right. It's not right. Then he ends up accidentally knocking the two guys out.
And while it's all happening, Bill Murray's like, terrific! Wow, this is great! And they slip on the marbles. He just thinks it's all these elaborate stunts.
Now, a fun little moment in that part is when then he knocks into one of the passed out henchmen, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like he is still thinking I bumped into this guy by accident. Yes. I'm so sorry about that.
Well, that's the other scene I really like is when they come across Spencer's dead body, and he's just amazed at how well the guy's able to stand still. And in his mind, it's just this guy's really good at playing dead. And she's horrified, and she immediately goes into shock seeing a dead body.
Right, and she just thinks he's such a cold-blooded motherfucker.
Right.
He's just inspecting this dead body.
Right,
with
she
total
says
ease.
I've never seen a dead body before, and he's like, please, I've seen this 1,000 times. And then he's trying to catch him throwing the ashtray at him, saying things, turn around, going boogity boogity boogity.
I like this movie.
Yeah, good dead body bit, man.
Yeah. This is kind of exactly the movie I need to see in the state of the world right now.
Yeah, I saw it before, actually. Yeah,
it's just it gets your mind off of stuff.
Hey, fuck it, we're jumping around. I'll say,
we just got to jump around, guys.
You got to jump around. In the words of Chris Christ, you got to jump around.
Oh, okay. I know what I wanted to talk about. It's where Brother Richie is calling the Theater of Life people.
Yes.
Because he's like, I need an extension. My brother's, ruining this dinner with the Germans. And so he calls, but what happens is the real police has shown up to the offices, and so they're answering the calls, right? And there's this
is a great
confusion of who's the cop, who's the actor, who's in character, who isn't.
It's similar to the There's Something About Mary scene where the cops are interrogating him about, and he thinks he's being interrogated about picking up hitchhikers.
Which is a great scene.
I just love that joke always, where the cops are like, what's the matter with you? And he's just
sick,
all right,
disgusting monster. Right, and they think he's bribing them because he's like, how much would it cost to get another hour out of this? I really need to stall.
And it gives Peter Gallagher some fun stuff to do.
Right. And they keep on going are you trying to bribe us? And he's like, yeah, if that's the terminology I have to use. Yes, I'm trying to bribe you. He keeps on calling him Shakespeare.
But then it gets to a point where he's just talking about why he doesn't like British people.
Yeah.
You fotsy little
Yeah. That's true.
And then
this is his awakening.
It's maybe the best pure joke of the movie is when the police officer who gets off the phone is just like, I don't know what to say. The guy's American, you know?
Yeah, right.
And then he goes over to a cop and he goes, "Tell me you were recording that phone call." And she goes, "I'm an actor."
He walks over to another cop.
Yeah, and this is one continuous shot. He goes, "Tell me you were recording that phone call."
The guy's like,
Yeah.
Good. And then
fuck, even the SWAT team, remember? He does the bit where he's like, "Oh shit, my brother's in trouble. I have to go out for some ports and the car keys." And then later the SWAT team shows up and it's even
the port and the car keys is a good
line.
But
it's like setting up this whole thing where like misinformation, like the maid says, "Mr. Ritchie, go to port," and they're like closing all of the ports in the whole country, like.
But there's also, I like the setup of, he goes, "I need to get another bottle of port." And then she goes, "We already have a bottle of port here." And he goes, "Yes, but the thing is, I have to go down to the basement and it's dark down there." Like he no butts her, Like she negates the logic and he just doubles down on it and makes it more complicated. He ends up breaking into, the meta levels now. He goes into an area that says it's for performers only because he thinks he's performing.
Right.
So now he's doing a performance in the room with all the people who are trying to pull off the actual assassination.
The Russian, and so you've got the Russian doll where like if you click it one way it's on and click it the other way it's off, and he keeps clicking. I love that.
Yeah, it's Bill Murray dancing. That's a gift.
Bill Murray in a Russian hat.
Always funny.
That's funny.
Don't they repeat the same bit in fucking Charlie's Angels? I think they realized his head looks funny with the hat on it.
Yeah, I think they do.
I think he wears the hat.
He's funny in Charlie's Angels.
He is. Well, we'll have
famously, like, basically got punched in the face by Lucy Liu.
Because when we wrap up this episode, we'll talk about what happens to Bill Murray after this movie. But that's kind of the end of.
Okay, well then
point.
let's move on.
But he also on Letterman a couple times he wore a fucking Russian fur hat like that. I think he knows he's got a head built for that hat.
He's got a good. I'm now looking up him with, like, I just looked up Bill Murray Russian hat.
Yeah.
I'm actually just getting a lot of Bill Murray wearing many kinds of hats.
Yeah, I'm just saying, first of all, Bill Murray looks great in a hat. Second of all, someone make a Bill Murray Rusky comedy.
Yeah, sure.
Let's put him in that hat for the whole RT, baby. Give me a full 95 minutes of him in that hat.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of other fun moments. So he what he thinks to be the evil scientist lady is actually just this lovely older couple.
Oh, that's funny.
Who are just like trying to like throw
spice it up.
Yeah, spice it.
That's
like,
a joke
like.
you couldn't do now.
No,
him in the Nazi regalia, but it
that's
is
the thing,
funny.
She's kink playing as a Nazi,
right? But it is funny because she's just like, "You've been very naughty, haven't you?" He's like, "Yes," like, they're so English about it, but they're having a good time in their way.
Because even before he takes her out of the room, there are 4 times that he walks in.
Right.
Where you see her whipping, and it never gets any crazier than that. It's just her in one position whipping. He's a schoolboy. He goes, oh, I'm been very naughty.
Yeah.
It's
funny.
But he takes her onto the elevator, right, as a hostage with a real gun. Real gun. He doesn't know it.
No, absolutely not.
And then there's this lovely little Asian couple, and he goes, "Oh, actually, we're just acting." And then he starts doing lines again, playing out this like theater of life.
Right.
And he teaches them how to act. He's like, just gotta be natural, be in the moment, respond.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you had your fun."
Yeah.
This is what's fun about Bill Murray's performance in this, where he's just like, he's just like, "Look, it's not hard. This is how you act." Yeah.
And then his head got sent home in a podcast.
I like the scene where Alfred Molina comes to him where he's trying to assassinate Bill Murray while he's doing the Russian dance, and then he ends up firing the arrow into the nesting doll, which then deactivates the thing.
It, right.
And the move that Murray does there is so funny. He sees the thing on the doll, then he looks out like if someone like had given him a rose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he has this like move where he's like, "Who did that?
Yeah.
What a nice gesture."
And also Murray's killing it. I mean, it's like he's finally had his moment where he's performing in front of an audience and he didn't freeze up. And he says that to Gallagher. He's like, "They were eating out of my hand."
Right.
Because there was the thing where he goes like, "Hey, do you mind if I take?" Because he realizes he's the only one without the Russian nesting doll. He takes it off the table, and he gets a laugh even from that. And he's starting to like come into his power. But then Molina comes up to him afterwards, and he's like, "What just happened?"
I don't know. It's a little weird. Yeah, nothing. Like a Charlie horse or something.
Oh,
or
boy.
there's an animal in my
got a little spooky.
Muscle spasm, essentially.
David looked like a ghost just grabbed his arm.
That's how it felt. All right, carry on.
Molina comes to him and he's like, "Game recognized game. Like you're the best in the bit. Like I've been trying to kill you this whole time." Yeah, that's always a good gag. But he gives him his gun and he's like, this was given to me by the best shooter I ever seen, and he gave it to me, and you're the most impressive operative.
Molina's always good.
He's always good.
He's been better.
Yeah.
He doesn't totally pop.
Yeah, because I'd forgotten.
Nothing in this movie totally pops, if that's my criticism of it. I think
Gallagher,
it's all
I
good.
think is the best.
Absolutely. Gallagher and Murray pop, but
one thing holding Gallagher back, I would say, the only running gag in this movie I'm not crazy about. I don't think it's terrible, but I just go, ugh, every time it comes up, is when Bill Murray calls him, it sounds like he's talking about a prostitute.
Oh, sure.
That gag's just like, we don't need that level.
If we're going to do that too, I think a thing that takes me out of it is where he shoots the female lead. He shoots her. And that's just really stupid. No one's that dumb.
I agree. But, Molina, when I saw this movie when I was 8, I didn't know who Alfred Molina was.
Sure.
And so rewatching it and seeing Alfred Molina's name come up in the credits, I was like, oh, Molina's in there. I bet he kills in this. And you watch it and it's like, oh, Molina's doing his job.
This is the same year he's in Boogie Nights, and I feel like that's what begins to launch his sort of American career really in earnest. He'd been in American movies before.
But that takes him to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a real Butcher sort of look about him.
You've made that clear, Ben.
I feel like if he ever needs to pick up work, just give him a Butcher.
Actually become a Butcher?
Yeah.
Do you want to take us to the end of the movie, Ben? You want to wrap it up?
He dismantles the bomb.
Yeah.
We sort of haven't mentioned there's this justification for really why the bomb is there, because the Russians and the Brits want to get back together to basically have another Cold War, because they want their weapons, hungry kind of bad guys,
Yeah, they missed the Cold War.
Well, we should also mention Peter Gallagher gets tortured.
Yeah.
He does get tortured.
And that shocks him into realizing his life's been no good.
All he's been chasing after is money, but he needs happiness. And his brother lives his life the way he wants to, on his own terms, even if he does work at a Blockbuster. Oh, there's that moment, too, where the brother calls up, where Bill Murray calls up and on speakerphone, which they don't turn off, keeps on describing what sounds like a sex session with a sex worker. And then everyone is aghast. All the Germans are aghast, and they go, his wife goes, he's in show business. And they go, okay. Yeah. Funny. Pointed.
And then at the end, you've got a very funny little coda where, the CIA approach. Well, okay, we should also mention Bill Murray gets the girl and all the money.
Yeah, he gets the girl and the money.
But he approaches them on vacation, and Bill Murray again, he knocks everyone out by mistake. They're trying to poison him. And so they're like, we knew it. You're the best agent there ever could be, and you got to join us. And he's like, cool, because he thinks he's going to be in a movie. There he is. Right, Ben? I think he thinks he's being approached for Hollywood.
It's not clear.
I took it that way.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, but it's almost the thing where he knows that he was the guy who saved the day, because he's sort of aware of the newspaper article. I feel like it's insinuated that he's aware of what he did, but then it's not clear even to me still at this point.
I want to just believe that everything that happens around him, even after it, he can interpret it as part of the theater of life, and thus is still just on the level people have got it. I'm a really great actor.
I believe that he never wises up, and thus the thesis of the movie is life is but a play. Are we all not but players on this stage that we call humanity? And in fact, if you treat life like play, perhaps it frees you up to live the life you want. All he needed was pretend in order to become real. Do you know what I'm saying, David? We live cathartically through our media.
And I want fresh flowers and ice.
I want to shout out Richard Wilson, who plays Roger Dagenhurst, the guy on the other end of the line, the British. Is he the secretary of something, or is he's the head of a spy agency? He famously plays Victor Meldrew on One Foot in the Grave, which was a very popular British sitcom in the 90s about a grumpy old man who famously, one of those British shows that seems like a cute sitcom, but weirdly dark. But his catchphrase was, "I don't believe it." And in Britain, if you say that, everyone knows what you're saying.
That's all. You're having a laugh.
But the weirdest thing about One Foot in the Grave, just to put this out there, is it was remade in America as Cosby, the Bill Cosby follow-up to the Cosby Show. Yes. Now, I think they tweaked it, obviously. But that show, like, in the credits says, like, based on One Foot in the Grave, like the BBC comedy.
That's crazy.
In which he plays, like, a grumpy old man. The Cosby, he was, like, grumpier.
Yeah.
He wasn't, like, friendly.
This movie comes out in 1997. It bombs. 1998, Rushmore comes out. End of the year. And this is phase 3, right? This is the huge turning point.
Yes.
And then after this, the next couple of years, he plays a supporting role in Tim Robbins' Cradle Will Rock,
which he's good in, but that movie is a bomb.
He plays Polonius in Hamlet,
which he's also good in.
And that movie's okay.
Yeah.
He plays Bosley in Charlie's Angels, which was arguably the last big paycheck Bill Murray role.
Basically, very funny, but clashes heavily with everyone on set.
Hates working on it. They write him out of the sequel.
Bernie Mac plays his role in the sequel.
I went to see...
Almost as funny.
My family, we were big Nader supporters in 2000, and we went to the Nader rally at Madison Square Garden, and Bill Murray came up and gave a speech, and I remember this because it was amazing, but Bill Murray came up and he said, last thing you want to hear, some lefty liberal celebrities getting up telling you who to vote for. I mean, it's presumptuous of me to assume that I have any sway, any power. And I was saying to my wife, I don't even want to come out here. I don't want to speak. I think it's too much. And then I remembered, Bill, you're Bosley in the new Charlie's Angels movie. You have a rare power and responsibility. And the whole bit kept on being like, you're no mere celebrity. You're Bosley. And the joke was so clear. He was so embarrassed that he was in that movie. I mean, this was like a month after Charlie's Angels had come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's funny.
He's
funny
or I guess it was
Charlie's
a month
Angels.
before it came out. He's funny in that. But then after that, Royal Tenenbaums.
Yep.
Osmosis Jones, which was
funny.
shot earlier, had a long post-production because it was animated.
His parts in that are terrible and belong to the sort of the phase 3 Murray era.
He was doing that as I think a favor to the Farrelly Brothers. He clearly doesn't look happy in that movie.
It's unhappy. The half that is live action is really unhappy. The animated stuff is pretty fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
Lost in Translation, obviously.
It's a big one.
Big one. Gets the Oscar.
What
and
did
then
he whisper?
The Oscar nomination.
What did he whisper?
Shut up, Ben.
I'm going to tell you at the end of the episode.
Oh, okay, great.
Now, he still makes some paychecks because he's got Garfield.
Right,
and
but
Garfield
you got to do 2 days of voice work. It's different, But then,
and also, there's that famous, like, apocryphal possibly story that Joel Cohen wrote.
Right.
And he's like, oh, the Coen brothers wrote this? All right, I'll do Garfield. But, I mean, who knows if that's true. So he makes, like, The Life Aquatic and the Darjeeling Limited and all the Wes Anderson movies. He always pops up in
Broken
those.
Flowers. So
Broken
he's
Flowers
doing the
with
drummer's
Jarmusch.
thing. He's in Limits of Control. He's in Coffee and Cigarettes. He does Zombieland, which was like his biggest like purely comedic performance, and it was like an uncredited
but
cameo.
It's funny.
He rules in that movie.
It is good.
Get Smart. He's got one scene and he's really funny.
But
the only funny part of that movie.
Then I might even argue that somewhere around there,
Phase 4 starts.
No, Phase 4 ends, and then Phase 5, which is what we're in now, starts. Where it's like he makes these leading man roles again.
Hyde Park on the Hudson.
Like Hyde Park on Hudson.
St. Vincent.
And Rocks the Casbah, where you're just like, dude, what? This is your new career phase?
He's in a weird space. I thought he was very good in The Jungle Book. I know a lot of people didn't. I really liked him in that.
Why didn't you guys like St. Vincent? I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was okay.
It felt to me like the kind of movie that Bill Murray would have made fun of.
Boring.
It felt like it was
boring.
too tidy at the end. It felt like it didn't own his irascibility enough.
Yeah, very true.
It felt a little too sanitized.
He's in like The Monuments Men, which is also kind of like that. He's fine in it.
He's in a weird phase right now because he doesn't really seem to be that interested in being a comedic leading man, but the dramas he picks are odd choices.
I think he either needs to find a new director, maybe like a really good director who can maybe get something new out of him, or perhaps make another very good movie with one of his guys that he works with right now.
I mean, he hasn't done a Coppola movie since Lost in Translation, and also Wes Anderson's been giving him small roles. He's been a company player lately. He hasn't had a meaty. I mean, Moonrise was his meatiest one.
Wes Anderson gave him The Life Aquatic, which I feel like was his big role for Wes Anderson,
and that was notably a difficult shoot.
But you just need the 800 number, right? And you can just call and leave a message.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
do you guys know anyone?
I have access to it.
What?
I don't think I've ever told you guys this. I have.
You told me.
I have the 800 number.
Oh shit!
I just want to point out he actually did do something with Sofia Coppola. He did a very Merry Christmas with her.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
Nope.
So like 6 years ago, I was working at a summer camp that I referenced a lot before, where I went as a kid and then taught.
Make this fast.
Yeah. We were having a really hard time getting kids to care about comedy, and I really thought, because we had a picture of Bill Murray hanging up in our little cabin, and I had the thought one day, My dad is close friends with one of the people who's in the Bill Murray kind of inner circle.
Sure.
Not, Howard Franklin or anything, but one of these guys who he does trust.
I was trying to portmanteau his name with the universe, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Carry on.
And so my dad has the number, and I called him up and I said, I just have this crazy idea.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if he checked his voice machine,
Called your dad up.
I called my dad up and I said, I have this crazy idea. I feel like if the timing was right and he checked the voice machine on that day, if I said, hey, we're at a summer camp in Connecticut, I'm trying to get 12-year-olds to care about comedy and they won't give a shit.
Right.
Would you want to come teach a workshop? Because we'd have the workshops and it'd be like, this guy used to go here and now he's a writer's assistant on this, Yeah. At the very best, it'd be like, this guy writes on Weekend Update. And it's like, oh, cool. And I just love the idea of doing a secret workshop. And my dad gave me the number and he's like, I'll give this to you.
Sure.
I just want you to think about if you do it.
Yeah, take your shot.
You've got one shot. I know you have ambitions, in
so you didn't
your
do
career.
It, is what you're saying.
I've had this screenplay idea that I've never written that I'm not going to say on air because I don't want anyone to steal it.
What if this guy was in like a living theater play, and then it turned out it got crossed over with like an action movie?
I've always had this movie idea that I felt like was the best modern Bill Murray movie you could make.
About a man who knows too little?
A man who knows too little too.
All right.
No, I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to air it.
That's fine.
But my notion was always, and I'll just say this, is there a way you can make a Bill Murray movie that marries the two sides of Bill Murray? Can you make a movie that owns both the sad sack, modern, malaise Bill Murray and the wild, crazy guy Bill Murray?
Sure.
And I think I have an idea that works for that. Because I feel like if you could make a movie that has the pathos of current Bill Murray...
We get it.
And allows Bill Murray to be a fucking...
You said it.
Fun guy.
You're
we haven't gotten
yourself.
fun Bill Murray.
You're repeating yourself. It's true we haven't.
Someday I'm going to write that, and I got the phone number, and that's the call, and this is the dramatic tease I'll do for something that probably won't pay off 15 years from now.
Interesting. I also have some ideas I've been sitting on.
Oh, baby.
Let's all call him at the same time, once a day, every day.
No, but we've got to make sure that this is a thing that we keep in the back of our minds, guys.
No question, because I got the number.
He's got the number.
I got the number.
All right. I'll maybe can I just maybe not today because we're about to wrap up here, but
yeah,
I'll throw some log lines your ways, guys.
Okay.
All right. Some Murray logs.
We'll keep that. There'll be a new segment.
I'm gonna float a couple logs your way, guys.
Okay. We should play a box office game though.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
But go ahead.
I'll do what I was going to say after we play box office game.
Oh, you've got some big thing
planned.
No,
it's not.
November 14th, 1997 is the weekend. The movie opened to $4.6 million at number 5.
Not good.
It earned a total of $13.7 million on a $20 million budget.
Even worse.
Yeah,
that's a low budget. Wow. Yeah.
There's no worldwide gross listed. I don't think this film had almost any impact overseas.
Okay, so this is a month before Titanic comes out.
That's correct. This is in 97. It's a hot year, but this is it's not a great list.
Okay,
number 1 is an action movie, an R-rated action movie starring a big action star.
Franchise or a one-off?
It's a remake, actually.
It's a remake.
You know what? Honestly, it stars 2 stars, but 1 big action star.
Okay,
Who plays the villain?
The big action star plays the villain.
Mm-hmm. And the title role.
Interesting.
Don't know if you'll get this. Kind of a shrug of a movie.
And the other person
plays like the guy who's hunting the villain.
Now, this is an interesting... I always am interested by the phenomenon of the bigger star plays the villain and thus gets top billing and kind of unbalances the movie.
A little bit, yeah.
The Hunt for Red October thing, which I think is a good movie, but that's always that weird imbalance where it's like Baldwin isn't at the fighting level.
Which is usually what that is like you've got the more older star playing. But in this one, it's actually not true. Like, honestly, they're both about the same age.
Interesting.
But no doubt the villain is the bigger star.
Okay.
Especially for action.
So it's not Schwarzenegger, not Stallone. I always have to ask that when we say action movie.
No.
Is it Bruce Willis?
Yes.
Is it the Jackal?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
The Jackal.
It took me a while to get it, but once I got it immediately.
Big hit. I mean, big hit movie worldwide.
Right.
Not a huge hit in America.
Yeah.
But opened to 15 million. So number 2 had been number 1 the week before. It's a massive, super violent sci-fi epic.
Starship Troopers?
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
Fantastic film, which we will
unquestionably cover it.
One day do on this podcast.
Yeah, unquestionably.
That was making 10 million in its second weekend.
Misunderstood. It's time.
Friend of the show pilot.
Oh, it was so misunderstood.
Very misunderstood.
I just rewatched it and I was blown away.
That's the best.
Friend of the show, Pilot Vera, was recently telling me that that was like the first R-rated movie she went to see because her parents were like, "What's like some sci-fi movie? Yeah, go have fun." Like, and she saw like a bunch, and like that movie has like a ton of nudity as well as like really insane violence.
Well, because that movie's directed by Paul Verhoeven.
And and then later her mom watched it years later, and she was like, "Wait a second, you were seeing this?" What? Number 3 is a reissue of a Disney animated film.
1997.
I honestly didn't even remember that this got reissued.
This was the tail end of when they were doing reissues.
Yeah.
Because that was, for a long time, Disney wouldn't release their movies on home video.
Or they would for a second and then put it back in the vault.
The reissues were the big thing. 97, can you tell me what era of Disney it was?
Disney Renaissance, you know. It was not that old a movie.
Okay, so it was like an 80s movie?
Yeah.
Maybe? Was it Little Mermaid?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, they reissued that one.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Number 4, you know, British comedies. They were in there.
I think I know what it is.
What is it?
The Full Monty?
Nope.
Oh, fuck.
But I bet the Full Monty's hanging out in there.
Okay, I got another guess.
I feel like the Full Monty is about to make its like.
I think it was a slow build. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got another guess. Bean?
Yeah.
L's, yeah.
Bean.
97 I remember pretty vividly. Yeah.
Which I saw in theaters for sure.
Yeah. 97 was like one of the years where I started getting really serious about movies, you know?
Okay, sure. So you just started to go see movies like Bean?
Yeah, well, yeah, I saw Bean probably 3 times in theaters, but I also, I'm not joking. People have asked in the past why, how I know all this shit. I'm going to say this very quickly. My father loves sports, and he loves sports stats, and my brother and him could always talk about that. My brother wanted to be a sportscaster. My dad wanted to be a sportscaster. Right.
Show, yeah.
When Toy Story came out, and I love Toy Story, and I saw that it was the #1 movie in America, my dad was like, "Oh, you know, there's a box office."
Right.
And so every Monday morning when I woke up for school, my dad would take out the New York Times and we'd read the top 10.
There you go. So
it's all burned in my memory because it was a bonding exercise with my father. And now I still do it, and we talk on the phone on Mondays and go like, "Hey, what about that?"
Hey, Doctor Strange, good hold.
Yeah, good hold. We talk about the hold.
Good hold.
My dad and I talk about.
Does your dad listen to the podcast?
Absolutely not. He never will.
Yeah, he better not. Jeez.
Man Who Knew Too Little. Yeah, seriously. Man Who Knew Too Little was number 5. So that's your top 5.
Okay.
Other movies in there, you've got I Know What You Did Last Summer.
As Good as It Gets? Is that in there? Or does that come out later? Does that not come out until
later.
December? Okay.
Yeah, it comes out later. You got The Devil's Advocate.
Okay.
A lot of R-rated. You know, that was the days where The Fall was really like movies just suddenly got violent.
Yeah. The Jackal.
Another Richard Gere vehicle. By the way, Richard Gere's in The Jackal. Red Corner.
I don't even know that one.
That's like, he went to China, and China was really fucked up, and like locks up journalists, like very anti-China.
Yeah.
And like I think Richard Gere is like banned from China.
Please. Dickie Gere.
Yeah, Dickie Gere.
Okay.
I realized this recently when I emailed Sony. I think it's Sony. Yeah, Sony to see Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, if you got any screenings for Billy Flynn's Long Halftime Walk? Which is Richard Gere's character in Chicago. And they, to their credit, did not correct me.
Cool.
Boogie Nights is in there.
Okay.
Eve's Bayou, very underrated Cassie Lemons movie.
Never seen it. I need to see it.
Fantastic
I like Cassie Lemons a lot.
Piece of black cinema. Mad City.
Oh yeah.
With it's Costa Gavras, I believe.
Yeah.
And John Travolta.
Yeah.
Justin Hoffman.
A weird time.
Scintillating satire.
Yeah.
Of the media.
Yeah.
Weirdest one in here, you've got like the Full Monty.
One last one. Come on, let's go. Yeah.
Men in Black.
I was gonna guess.
Leapt 700% from the week before because it added 300 theaters.
Yes. Well, this was a thing they used to do.
It's already made $250 million, but it just like bumps back in.
I feel like I distinctly remember this, and from that fall.
Yeah, because it didn't come out in July. This is
they used to do this thing that was like the summer movies in the fall. Once they were like pretty much down, they do one last splash to ring them out.
Hey!
And sometimes what they would do was they make it a double feature. So they'd be like, I know in 2002, both Spider-Man and Men in Black 2 in like September, October were like done with their box office runs, and they were like double feature, 2 for the price of 1. And that was like number 8 at the box office. Yeah. Was people sitting for 3 hours of Men in Black 2 and Spider-Man. David mimed shooting himself in the head. So here's the last thing I want to say today.
Sure.
A little housekeeping.
Okay.
In our previous episode, we talked about our next miniseries, which is going to be Spielberg, the DreamWorks years, unofficial title, working title.
Yeah, we might not do better.
Dream working title.
You didn't do Ben's names.
Yeah, because it's his episode.
Oh, yeah, that's the reason. I'm shocked that you didn't, even though I love you not doing it.
You're shocked that I didn't say producer Ben? You're shocked that I didn't say the Ben Deucer, Purduer Ben, the Poet Laureate, the Haas, the Tiebreaker, Birthday Benny, the Fuckmaster? the poet laureate,
mm-hmm.
our finest film critic.
Yeah.
Joe and Katie recently told me that's their favorite one.
Our finest film critic. White Hot Benny, Soaking Wet Benny, Birthday Benny, Dirtbag Benny. I'm repeating them.
Sure.
You're shocked that I didn't wish him a hell of fennel?
I'm shocked.
You're shocked that I didn't mention that he's graduated to certain titles of the series.
No, this is
over
why
miniseries.
I remembered it, because I've got a couple ideas that people have pitched to me. So
well, there's Ben
first
Kenobi.
Obi-Ben Kenobi. Producer Ben Kenobi.
Producer Ben Kenobi.
Kylo
Ben.
Ben Say, Ben Shyamalan. Benny. Say anything.
Say anything.
So for the James Cameron, now concluded James Cameron series.
T-Ben 1000.
I've heard T-Ben 1000.
Sure.
Joe Reed gave me Unobtainy Ben.
I thought it was
Benobtainium.
Benobtainium.
Benobtainium. Dan Daddario, who came up with Say Anything.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Ailey Benz.
That's really good.
And he DM'd me with, trying to make this 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Ailey Benz.
It's pretty good.
Oh, God.
Good.
We gotta think this one over.
So those are floating out there.
Okay.
Maybe we'll think of one more so we can have your classic Twitter poll, 4-option Twitter poll.
Yeah, but the problem is we're recording these episodes like 5 months in advance. We can't poll it because then they'll be like, you know what I'm saying?
We could poll it.
Oh, whatever. Fuck it. I don't care. Who gives a shit? Here's the plan. We'll do something.
Yeah.
Schedule's gonna be a little weird. Okay?
Schedule's gonna be weird. Look.
So this episode's coming on the tail end of a nice James Cameron miniseries, right? What's going on after that? The week after this, our next episode will be Rogue One. We're dipping back into Star Wars, right where we started. New Star Wars film we've always promised. Someone we've covered has a new project, we got to cover it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Rogue One. What are we doing after that? Technically, we're going to be off for the next month, but releasing new episodes. We're going to give you some best ofs. Because a lot of people jumped on in blank check days. We want to show some respect for the Star Wars days.
And for people maybe jumped on in a later blank check miniseries.
100%.
Things like that.
So we're going to give you one miniseries. Each of our Star Wars miniseries is going to have its own best of episode. We're going to give you a lot of the bits. This is going to be a lot of origin stories for where a lot of our great bits come from.
So I guess, we're going to have a bit of a Star Wars, return to Star Wars, because it's going to be Rogue One and then some Star Wars greatest hits. That'll be in January, guys. And then
M. Night Shyamalan's new film Split comes out.
Yeah, baby! So Ben Night Shyamalan will come back.
And then
we'll talk about Split.
We start Spielberg.
And then at the end of January, we're planning Spielberg, the DreamWorks years. We'll start with his one non-DreamWorks movie from the DreamWorks years.
Right.
The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
So just want to give everyone the fair warning. There's going to be a gap before we get to the next miniseries. You're not going to miss out on blank check content. You're going to get stuff every week.
Yeah. It'll be fun, guys.
It'll be fun. And also, come on, give us some time. We got to bank up because we're going to make sure we keep on releasing episodes while I'm ticking.
Also, we're working on merch, guys. It's just I don't know if it's we're trying to get our our stuff in order. We'll see what happens.
Well, the problem is it was about to dock into the port, and then Peter Gallagher made that phone call.
Yep.
Consuela picked up, and now all the ports are closed. We've had the blank check, the night mask. Sleep mask.
So Ben, what's your next? It won't be a long. It'll be a long time from now. It'll be a long time from now, actually, because Spielberg will take a while.
Yeah,
but start thinking about your next Ben's choice.
Yeah,
I will.
7 months from now.
I'm actually. I
maybe
feel
not
like
quite.
There's an aspect of me because I'm a goof. I don't take movies that seriously.
Correct. Yeah.
But there was definitely a period of my time, a time in my life where I was studying to be a fiction writer and had sort of my art movie phase.
Okay.
So I'm gonna I feel like we haven't done any
artful
kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a tease for what's gonna happen next summer.
Maybe it'll be 500 blows.
I mean, it would be 400 blows, surely.
No, he's stuck with the sequel.
401 blows.
Well, that's a good tease for what's going on in the future. Ben's calling his shots. He's gonna do an art house movie. Tune in next week for Rogue One, and then a nice Star Wars run before we go back into M. Night territory before I give you Spielberg. The DreamWorks years.
We got to do Split, man. It's going to be the first time. I know. It's going to be the first time we're doing we're going back to the pool.
Our little kids are growing up.
It's going to be fun.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. And as always,
yes.
Oh shit.
I got one I want to say. If you don't want to,
no, please.
Because I'm going to do you a favor here, Ben. I'm going to answer a question you asked.
Sure.
And as always, Ben, do you want to know what Bill Murray whispers to Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation?
Yeah.
Producer Ben, a.k.a. the Ben-Deucer, a.k.a. Producer Ben, a.k.a. the Haas, a.k.a. Mr. Positive, a.k.a. the Tiebreaker, a.k.a. the Fuckmaster. He is not Professor Crispy. He is our finest film critic. He is the Poet Laureate. He's White Hot Benny. He's Soaking Wet Benny. He's Dirt Bike Benny. If you see him on the streets, greet him with a hearty hello fennel. He's graduated certain titles over the series of over the course of different miniseries, such as Kylo Ben, Producer Ben Kenobi, Ben Night Shyamalan, Ben Sate, and Save Anything. I mean, they sped it up in post, so
yeah, I was
going to
say that's a lot just for him to whisper.
Right, but I swear to God, that was the whisper.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I wasn't even producing then, but I guess they knew what was going to be.
Look, I mean, that's what makes a great filmmaker. Sometimes you come upon happy accidents. David's left the studio.
Yeah, David's gone.
David's gone.
Well, hey, that was a good end to an episode.
I think so, too. I felt like that was a fun one. We didn't talk about politics too much, which is good, because by the time people are listening to this, they're not going to want to hear about it. And it'll probably be new.
Yeah, no one's going to want to hear us in the past talk about the terrible things that are currently happening right now.
That's the thing, because there are going to be new terrible things by the time this comes out. I don't expect anything's going to be resolved. It's just these terrible fears are going to they're going to look quaint.
He's going to have been like, this is the department head of babes.
Right.
He's going to have a babe department.
Right, and it's going to be Himmler. It's going to be ex-Nazi. He's going to resurrect Himmler and make him the...
I think we should cut this part.
I don't know. I think we should double it.
Great. Here we go.
Okay.
This has been a UCB comedy production. Check out our other shows on the UCB Comedy Podcast Network.